It was the 19th of March, 2009 at 7:30 p.m. when I received news of my firstborn son Ranveer being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, commonly known as juvenile diabetes. We had gone for dinner the previous evening to a local restaurant, after which my 9-year-old son Ranveer kept throwing up continuously, and within a few hours he had started losing weight drastically. I rushed him to the hospital, and when the test results came back, I was handed his diagnosis. Afraid of not knowing how the disease is going to implicate our lives and my son's health, I stood devastated by the pediatric intensive care unit. But something happened to me that night. As a mother, I made a resolve. I had a choice either to succumb or to surmount this life quake. So when my son gained consciousness the next morning, I welcomed the 5th member of my family, Ranveer, with his type 1 diabetes, because we were in it for the long haul. Well, what did this do to me and my family? We inherited a new normal. And what did this mean? It simply meant that we had a new routine. Routine, as you know, is a series of repetitive tasks that usually does not require you to be conscious or thoughtful. For example, like waking up in the morning and brushing your teeth. Did most of you brush your teeth today? Yes. So that means you followed a routine. However, there are certain tasks that require your attention. And when these tasks require your attention, it's important to adapt. In the words of life historian Bruce Feiler, who states in his book, Life is in the Transitions, disruptions can happen to anyone, anytime, and at most times they cause us setbacks that are largely unchosen. However, most of us tend to get into a freeze state when some disruption hits us bad. So I'm here to share an idea about how can you infuse romance into your routine so that you don't get stuck. My first assertion is that routine is extremely critical to success. When my son was struck with this new medical condition, the only choice we had and the only factor of success for us was to keep him alive. So what this meant was we had to change the way we bought our groceries. We had to change the way we prepared our meals, and we had to adjust everything that we took for granted before. So for example, the indiscreet eating without a care in the world suddenly had to stop. And you know what the challenge was? That the window for change was extremely narrow. It's almost as if one had to summit Mount Everest without even having the experience of climbing a flight of stairs. Overnight, my family and I had to adapt to carb counting and healthy eating, and whatever was served at the table was meant for Ranveer and everybody else. So we adapted because success for us was keeping him alive. My second assertion is that routine comes with a bad reputation of monotony, but it can be flipped into an opportunity. So what does this mean? It simply means that repetitive tasks, like I said before, like brushing your teeth or taking a shower, which are automatic, can put you in a state of boredom. And when the percentage of repetitive tasks in your life is far more than intentional tasks, such as designing a new logo, or sending an email to your boss, or discussing what color of outfit you want to wear for a wedding that is coming up, the boredom sets in. And the boredom sets in because we as human beings love the sense of adventure, love the thrill, and we naturally are designed to attract change. So at this stage, I had almost come into a new equilibrium and a relatively nice state of happiness called hedonic adaptation post my son's new normal with type 1 diabetes. And as a person, I craved for a professional challenge. I was getting bored with what I was doing, and then I wanted to do something else. So 17 years later, after the perks and powers of a large corporate job that allowed me to take advantages that other jobs don't have, I chose to transition purposefully from being an employee into an entrepreneur. Well, I fantasized about the freedom. I fantasized about the ability to decide and do everything. Whatever I wanted to do, I could do. Whatever I didn't want to do, I didn't have to do. I lived with this myth that I could get up at any time and come to work at any time, and I did not have to report to a boss. Very soon, that fantasy of mine was woken up. It was a rude shock. You know why? Because I had to pay rent. I had to pay bills. I had to pay salaries, and I had to manage janitorial staff who certainly won't listen to you. And I look back and I said, why am I struggling with this? Wherever I go, I don't get the privileges of my corporate life. I don't get to be treated the way I used to be treated. So what on earth has happened? It's just me. And a few months later, why am I being treated this way? And you know what happened? I looked back at my routine and I realized that I was behaving exactly like an entitled corporate employee, cribbing and cussing over first world problems. So I went back to the drawing board, pretty humbled by situation, desperate to survive, and interfered by commerce. So 3 things have happened because, you know what? The salary cycle comes back faster than you can imagine. Employees need to be paid, and vendors are nice only till the last date that you don't pay them. And after that, they're not nice to you. Absorbing these realities, I sat down and I asked myself, what is it that I need to change? And then I looked and said, I can't be corporate anymore. I need to be the entrepreneur. And what does this mean? This means we think like the big fours. We dream like the big fours. We strategize like the big fours. We don't compromise on quality. We don't compromise on talent, but we execute like the vendors on the street. If we don't sell our wares today, our wares perish. And when they perish, they're no longer useful. So I did something called as a radical culture shock. What did I do? I stopped buying color-coded chairs in the office, stopped ordering for gourmet coffees, stopped ordering miniature colorful post-its, stopped putting up fancy posters and doing Rose Day and Employee Day and whatever else day, and I even stopped buying fancy laptops. Survival was important. We just needed to exist. So we went from week to week, month to month, year to year, in bootstrapping and succeeding. And in all of this, the single biggest success factor was the ability to adapt to routine. So I changed what is called as the drudgery of monotony by adapting to routine very quickly. My third assertion is that ambition drives routine, and it's not the other way around. Have you ever noticed unambitious people? They usually drift from one goal to another, from one hobby to another, from one job to another, and one wonders why they keep doing it. That's because they have no goals. They're not yet clear about what they want to do. But for me, it was very clear that I had to build this organization. So therefore, I had to stay true to my routine. So when I went back as an entrepreneur and looked at it, I said, what is it that is troubling a lot of my clients today? And as a coach, remember, I have a ringside view into people's lives and people's aspirations and their behaviors. And one of the common themes that emerged was that most people are unhappy in their organizations because there is a wide gap between what is said and what is done, between what is stated and what is espoused, between what is written in the policy book to what is actually approved as a norm on the ground. And who do they talk to? How do they handle this? So I sat down, looked at a few of my clients' employee satisfaction survey scores, and then, in spite of the fact that year on year, the work-life balance domain had some of the lowest scores, most organizations got a jail-free card by giving placebos such as Christmas lunches, team offsites, and possibly some Sodexo coupons. But that didn't solve the problem. And I was ambitious. I was ambitious to make a mark. I was ambitious to take my organization to the next level. So what did I do? I conducted a survey of the culture in organizations that I work with. And between the years of 2015 and 2020, I met with over 780 people, on an average 5 people per day in different interactions, to ask them what is the real gap between what they think their organization is doing for them and what actually the organization is publicly communicating they're doing. That means the difference between the stated and the espoused values. And believe it or not, most of the people said that they get subtly penalized for choosing to have a comfortable work-life balance. That means if they choose to leave by 5, they're genuinely not considered for promotion. So people were forced to be there. I knew this, and yet I was not sure until one day I received a frantic call from a lady who was almost dysphoric and on the verge of doing something terrible to herself. And she was someone that I had met with during my survey. She just said, you know, Jahnavi, I am overwhelmed with guilt. I have a 6-year-old boy at home and I'm unable to spend any time with him. I'm a single mother. I will quit because I think I'm better off being with my son because I don't have faith that anybody is going to change their mindset. No matter how many hours I put in at the office, I am not going to get promoted because I don't know why. So I choose to leave and I choose to stay home with my son. That discussion triggered me to do something. I tried. I woke up the next morning and tried to do something about it. But then I got caught up in my usual administrative routine at work, in disciplining my team, in sharing my vision, and in just about wasting time in some kind of non-value-add activities. And very slowly I forgot about that lady. Then one day, when another client of mine called me and said, "What has happened? Has this survey been actioned?" I looked back and I said, no, I have failed. Because all I did was, I was excited to collect copious amounts of information, copious amounts of data, and I felt very powerful owning this data. But my lack of ambition to actually drive change prevented me from doing anything about it. So who was I? I was just another big consultant, another big armchair intellectual snob, capable of doing nothing. And that's when it occurred to me that ambition is the driver for routine and not the other way around. Having shared 3 separate assertions of mine and weathered so many storms in my life, here's what I think is an idea that could infuse romance into your routine and pull you out of being stuck. The first thing that I would do is to imagine, okay? I would imagine something that brings a surge of affection into me. That means what? I would create a life form and give a name to my routine. This is my 5-year-old golden retriever, Mocha, and he is the name of my routine. So when I think of him, I have a gush of positive emotions, and irrespective of my tiredness, irrespective of whatever I am feeling on that day, I am willing to play with him, I am willing to take care of him, and I'm just so blissfully happy. So the day I mentally switched to calling my routine Mocha, I could start befriending my routine, and I felt my routine was very, very affable. The second thing that I did was to create a persona around my routine. Because remember, routine is fixed and filled with goals. And goals are not static. They're actually a part of us. So now we need to give it a name, and we need to give it a few adjectives. So I started calling my routine Mocha, and then I started giving some adjectives like there are days when Mocha is easy, there are days when Mocha is friendly, there are days when Mocha is fun, and there are days when it's priceless with Mocha, right? It's like a walk in the park. And then there are days when Mocha becomes a challenger, a tyrant, a dictator, and a miserable, horrible life form to deal with, right? So, how is this related to my routine? This can happen with my routine too. There are days when I'm very upbeat, and there are days when I think it's a mountain I'm carrying. So when I think of Mocha, I think about it, and I say, it's pretty non-negotiable, isn't it? Because my routine, my goals are a part of me, like how Mocha is a part of me. When Mocha gets difficult, I try to calm him down. When my goals get difficult, I try to look for ways to manage them. I try to look for small hacks to overcome challenges. But when Mocha gets extremely easy, I enjoy. Same way, when I achieve my goals, I set newer goals. But I come out with a realization over here that Mocha is an integral part of my identity, and giving up on my routine is not negotiable. So I look for ways to stick by it and to manage it. Because you know what? If Mocha drives me nuts, will I be giving him away or will I abandon him? And the answer is no, I'm going to stick by him. It's the same way, no matter how tough my routine gets, because of what attributes and adjectives I give to it, I will stick by it. And the third thing I do, right, is I basically look at my routine with an owner mentality. And what's an owner mentality? I am the only human responsible for Mocha's playtime, poop time, pee time, and food time. There is nobody else who's responsible for it, although I beg and cringe sometimes and ask my family and friends to help me, and they gladly do. I am the only person responsible for his behavior and his well-being. Similarly, my routine is a part of me. Nobody else can do it, and I can't delegate it to anybody else because only I can dispense my routine. I can't have a whole village to raise my routine or to accomplish my tasks in proxy. So what do? I take Mocha out for a walk. I put him on a leash. I guide him on the path that we want to go. Same way, I take my routine to town. I start working around the actions, the tasks that I want to do. And then, when we walk out on the road, we're bound to encounter some bumps. We're bound to encounter some potholes. We're bound to encounter some kind of disturbances or possibly other dogs on the street who are hostile to us. But do we stop walking? No. I don't give up my routine, neither do I give up my walk with Mocha. We just circumvent or we just go through the challenge and know that we can overcome it. It could be a rainy day like today, but that hasn't stopped me from taking Mocha out for a walk. It could be a Monday morning and I've had a late Sunday evening, but that doesn't stop me from getting up and hitting the gym in the morning. So, whether I like it or not, I adopt an owner mentality. So I give my routine a life form. I choose to have an owner mentality. And above all, I create a persona over my routine so it becomes alive and I can relate to my routine. It's not some static phenomenon that exists outside of me. It is something that belongs within me and I have the control. Mocha and me have a long way to go, We're here to experience life in its everyday ups and downs, and we know that we both can moderate our routine to achieve our goals. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you adapt to change, please know that you are going to be faced with adversity and you're going to be faced with possible hostility. But if you are doing it for external rewards or because you're afraid of a punishment that may be meted to you, then don't do it. If you are doing it because it aligns with what you are, with your core identity, then go ahead and take the plunge. Give it a life form and see it come alive. Routine is very critical because sticking to a routine is the currency that you earn, and this currency will help you to have fame, fortune, fellowship, and above all, a first-class ticket to your destination called purpose. This here is Ranveer, 24 years old today. He runs 300 kilometers a month in his routine to live with diabetes and to maximize every single day. So, do you have it in you to survive? Or do you have it in you to thrive? Thank you.